Good evening. Ira Epstein with your SPDR ETF wrap-up for Monday, and we're at the 11th of April, 2022, just after 7 p.m. actually. Now, it's a 4-day week. Put that into your mind. Keep it there with Good Friday, Passover coming, so happy holidays to all. The second thing is what we have to look forward to tomorrow is CPI numbers. They'll be the big event of the day. They come out at 7:30 in the morning. They're looking for 1.1% increase month over month. And then when you take the core CPI, they're looking for it unchanged at a 0.5 percentage point gain compared to February's. We'll see. The market thinks you're going to get very hot numbers. Then later in the week, we're also going to get another event with bank earnings starting to come out. So the market's been falling rather hard into all this, and the question is what can lift it? We still have lockdowns going on in China. Shanghai had a record amount of cases yesterday of COVID. Other Chinese cities, the factories are shut down. There's some cities where everybody's basically shut in, and that hurts base metal demand if you think about it. What's going on there for iron ore, silver, copper, I can go on and on, the problems. As China comes out of that, they'll start throwing more money at the economy to get it back on its feet. But their growth target of making 5.5% this year, wipe that off. They'll be lucky to get 5%. And remember, who knows what their real numbers are, so you never know what they're doing. The war in Ukraine, going to get worse. They're bringing in a butcher from Syria. His job will be to level everything in front of him. That's what he did in Syria. That's what Putin's orders are right now. So they're regrouping. They attack too many targets at one time for the size army they have and the size of the country, and it's going to get even worse. So we're going to see news events that are horrific. What a terrible way to start, the holidays. But it's coming, and it's coming right in front of you. I saw an 8-mile-long convoy of tanks and artillery today moving in for final kills in some areas. Then COVID. Philadelphia is going back to masks. We're going to see that in many big cities. That's coming. For weeks, I've been talking about what we saw in Asia, then it moved on to Europe, it's coming here. And there'll be a certain amount of you that write and say, see, those vaccines don't work. And that's because you say it because you're so misinformed. Vaccines work. End of discussion. They don't stop you from getting COVID. What it does is it mitigates how bad the COVID is if you get it, and hopefully you don't die. If you don't want to take it, great. You'll probably be one of those people that gets either lucky or severely ill, or God forbid, could be the other event. Don't know. But there's a new variant. We have to pay attention to that in a major way. Then we have to decide. I wrote a report on the S&P, and we've had nothing but a break, which was expected. Do we start getting bottom areas? Now, if there's ever a time in a market you want to pay attention to what Bollinger bands are doing, this is it. For those of you and there's many of you, hundreds of you that have bought my course, maybe it's over 1,000, I don't know. This is where you start taking advantage of it because the markets are traveling in between the bands, and it gives you a bit of an edge as to what to do. We'll talk about that at the end of all this. So let's go to the markets and see what we have. Twitter. First thing, I want you to tell me what markets you'd like me to pick up and start covering after Twitter. It's a short week. I might finish the week up with Twitter, but I need a new market. Write me on the YouTube page, and I'll pick it up from there. As I said, when this happened, you might make a run to try to fill this gap. I don't know if it's going to happen or not, but when the market was all the way up here, because of Bollinger bands, I told you I thought it was a sucker play, and it would back off a bit. How deep, nobody knows. The trend is up. You got up to the 200-day average. That was, as it turns out, and that's often the case after the fact, that was where the resistance came in. But what isn't after the fact, as I told you, that's where I thought it could fail. Why? Because you were over the Bollinger Band and at that number, and that combination is typically lethal for those that are getting overly bullish. Now, nothing wrong, so let's assume you bought the market at 53. You're only out right now, $6. It's not terrible. Don't get me wrong, it really isn't. There's a gap down here. The trend is up, and I'm looking for support at 42.01, the 18-week average. You saw that Elon Musk said no to the board. Well, why no? Because there's a limit to how much stock he can own if he goes on the board. I never thought he was going on it. If he's going to do something really important, he can do it, if you will, as an activist and increase his ownership and say, hey, I don't like what you're doing with that push button for editing and so on. You have to be on the board for that. You have to be a major owner. He realizes that. In terms of momentum, my work, and we'll come back here, were you embedded? Okay, this is so important, and it's what I'm telling you about this. When I say embedded readings, Bollinger Bands, you watch here, day 1, 2, 3, embedded. As long as the red line doesn't close under 79, it means the market's likely going higher. It had been running against the band. The resistance in Twitter was first. What? The upper Bollinger Band and the 100-day average. And look where you're at. That's the first major resistance. There's no way to know from there that you're going here. All I know is that you're in resistance. The trend is up. I'm teaching people to buy the breaks in a stock like this. It's still up. Market's still a buy. You start losing the embedded reading, you don't close under 79. Again, you're close, you're not under 79. That's the key. Now, the market gets the piece of news. Like, I knew the piece of news. I don't know anyone to give me that information. And if I had it, I wouldn't touch it. Why? The SEC would be all over you. I'd run. I've been at this a long time. Your trading account does certain things. All of a sudden, you're in there and you're buying, you never did this, you're buying thousands of calls. You don't think you're going to be investigated? Market's making its move to the upside, and this is where we're at on this. Okay, you lost that reading. The odds favor, when you lose the embedded reading, that the market's going to return because of that to the closest main moving average. So it's the 18-day average of closes, in my opinion. Does not mean I'll be right in the analysis. Now if I can get, there we go. AMC, the sucker stock as I like to call it. When it got up here, I told you, I've owned a movie theater, so I speak now from knowledge. And I understand how, if you will, operators of malls operate that have them. Last night, one of my good friends was over. He's with a major mall operation. And we were laughing because I started showing this, and he goes, yeah, I get it. I know what you're saying. I will not give you his company or his name. But to make this, now you're back into support. Okay, you don't have to go back under here. But the sucker money was up there, and why AMC didn't float more bonds, whatever they were going to do, is beyond me. That should have been done. That was their opportunity. In Apple, lower highs, lower lows. Are we going to make a run for this number? We don't have to. You know, Apple's got a big following. Part of the problem is what's going on in China. Part of the problem is getting the material to put out the demand for the current phone that they're putting out. There's a lot of problems here, but suffice to say, the market lost its way all the way back over here. Market had the embedded reading, and watch. That's all I care about. Once that's there, I feel you're going to those averages. This is what you learn in my course. And if it keeps going, because now you got the trend down, the bias down, you open the door up for even worse events. When we look at Disney, okay, I'd be teaching you don't want to be short. You'll say, why? Well, you're not embedded. You're at the lower Bollinger Band. How many times does this market follow through and give you rewards for being under the band when you're not embedded? And even if you are embedded, you're not supposed to be under the Bollinger Band putting on new shorts, the way I teach. That's all I can keep telling you, the way I teach. There's no universal method that I know. I'm one guy. No, let somebody else want to own the short side. I'm looking to say, I think the short covering people are there. XLF, okay, the financial services, are you watching the curve yield? I know most people think, because you hear it in the news, oh, it's inverted. Well, what if I tell you it's not inverted, and it's reverted from being 5 points over the inversion, where the two got over the 10-year with a 5 basis point hike over it. Now it's 20 points the other way. So this got a little bit of a bid because a little bit of room came in there. Plus, what do we start off this week with? Big bank earnings. Financials are an area you want to observe, not necessarily be in as those earnings come out. Don't know which way they'll go. Industrial sector, I'm going to repeat again. You hit a Bollinger Band, you'd been in a downtrend, wasn't hard to predict this. I was doing it right here with you. And this was the target. You hit it. Are you supposed to hang around it anymore? Not me. I tell traders, the easy money's there. Same thing in XSD, the semiconductors. You're not embedded. You're not looking to be a seller. This is a short covering play. Why semiconductors down? Well, they don't haven't many people able to make them right now, fill orders or anything. Am I wrong? Let's see. Shanghai shut down. Other parts of China are shut down. They claim in China, I can only use the word they claim because you never believe anything these people say, that they are allowing in certain cities workers that work in the semiconductor factory to go to work. Okay, so there's no place to have lunch or dinner. There's no public transportation because it's a shut-in city and you're going to work. I'm sure they have their own buses to get there, but you get the point that I'm doing. So this is down. Plus, we're scared of a recession. Interest rates affect these companies, pushing that down for this wave of this. Home builders, well, they have nothing but bad news. I don't understand Kaufman Broad saying that they're going to be buying back a lot of homes. They have a game plan. I don't understand the plan. Is this the time that you want to build your inventory with those homes? I don't even know that they belong in the business of buying homes. But lower highs, lower lows, embedded. It's bearish until it loses this reading. So I'm not understanding any reason to be friendly this market until that red line closes back over 21. Energy sector, void of a trend. The trend ended here. The market, watch, drops down. You lose the idea of higher lows, higher highs. The peak was made all the way back here on the Ukraine attack of Ukraine by Russia. The market rallies back, checks that high to a degree, and all it's done since then is waver in it. Not an awful lot doing. Now, that's not crude oil price, but I'm just showing you how it tracked it. In the gold market, this is exciting because now you're forming a coil. I want you to think of a pipe. And inside of a pipe, you put a spring, and you start winding the spring like this from the back end. Energy's building, and eventually that spring's going to pop out. If there's a cork at it, that's it. If you got some champagne and you shake it up and it's got the cork and you pry it off, it's the same impact here. Here's your bottle of champagne, that's it. You're shaking away. Energy's going to come flying out. The longer the market goes sideways in those Bollinger Bands in a narrow range, the bigger the eventual move. My thought process, bullish. Inflation. Gold didn't do that much. It went up, as you know, off the Ukraine war. This is when it all happened. You can see that. I think the invasion date was February 24th, if I'm correct. So that was the move that they culminated with it. The next move we have is what? CPI number tomorrow. I want to see it. So I think the market's poised to decide what to do with that. Gold miners want to be more bullish than gold. They're a better looking chart. But again, you're caught in that narrowness. Do you want to be in that? Take my course and you learn what you should do. And it'll guide you for your set of thoughts. Then apply it the way that you want. Copper. Lower highs, lower lows. I had one of my clients keep telling me about copper, and I warned the guy, he's a subscriber, you can't be in. I prayed that he listened to what I was saying. He's done very well by coming out, probably 10% better than where he could have come out of the market already. Then we get to the interest rate sector, and you have now 1, 2, 3, 4 days under and outside of the lower Bollinger Bands, right? You're not embedded. This is like you're pulling on a cord and you're going to let it go because it's going to come whipping back sooner than you think, actually, on the right-hand side of the Bollinger Band. So it's an area, because you're not embedded, I don't think the pros are pressing the short side here. UUP, this is the dollar, same thing. As bullish as you want to be the dollar, you're not embedded, you're at the beginning stage. If you take a look, both numbers were not over 80 here, but today they are. It's day one. You need several days of that in order to get embedded. That will get me excited. The market also refused to narrow in its bands. It's just moving on up. Do you think it's going to pay attention to tomorrow to the CPI numbers? Of course it is. Then we get to the euro. Is the euro going lower? Well, there's one school of thought that thinks parity it can happen. What are they going to do with interest rates? There's a huge battle going on as to whether the European Central Bank is going to raise interest rates or keep saying we're pushing that off. That's going to determine its value in large part against the dollar. That story is developing right now. You are trying to develop an embedded reading. Not here. Day 1, Friday. Day 2, now. You can embed as early as tomorrow. So, you want to learn what this all means? It's so simple. Just give me a minute here and take a look at this. Welcome. I'm Ira Epstein, and I'm here to talk about my enhanced Bollinger Band course. Now, many of you have taken my regular charting course, and if not, you might think you know something about Bollinger Bands. As you know, Bollinger Bands are an algorithm designed to keep the market trading within it 95% of the time, and on a chart, it will offer on the top part resistance, on the bottom support, and the idea is the market will travel within them. We know that sometimes it latches onto that band, goes up or goes down. Well, how do you play with that? Can you pyramid the positions off that type of thinking? Well, I've applied all 3 of these into 13 different videos that teach you my concept of it. And from that concept, you're able to work with weekly charts and or daily charts. The 13 videos, each about 7 minutes long. The idea here is not to put you in school forever, but to teach. Now, if you haven't tried my complete futures research, I throw that in as well. Whether you've tried this or not, I think it's worth taking a look at. I think you're going to learn something from there. That research, by the way, covers twice daily market updates for you and access to what I call window envelope numbers, which I think are very important when looking at these Bollinger Bands. The next part is a trial to our charting software so you can make your charts look the same way that mine do. It's that simple. Where do you go with it and how do you get all this? It's simple. You go to our website, www.iraepstein.com. If you go to the word education, everything you need is answered there. You can also call my staff. They'll be happy to help you get set up. I'm Ira Epstein on the road to your education.